Good evening, everyone. Welcome to my weekly live stream, Node-RED Development. I'm Nick O'Leary, project lead of Node-RED. Do say hi in the chat if you're watching live. Do leave a comment and subscribe if you're watching the replay on YouTube. Great to see some guys already in the chat. Jim Boscochi, Mauricio, great to see you guys back. I know what I plan to do, and I suspect I'm going to still carry on with that tonight. It's just been brought to my attention that the Flow library is the Flow library website is failing to load due to some Cloudflare errors, which I've never seen before, and it's all slightly concerning. So I need to dig into that, but I think that's going to not something I can really do on the live stream, as I've got to go dig through user accounts and DNS settings and all sorts of stuff that I probably don't want to broadcast all the ins and outs of to the internet as I try and figure it out, logging into different accounts. So the Flow library is going to be down for the next hour or so. I will get it back up and running, hopefully, assuming we can figure out what the problem is, later on this evening. So in the meantime, what's the plan for tonight? So we've got the 1.3 release coming up imminently. Just all my focus right now is just trying to get the 1.3 release, at least the beta of it, ready to go. I would like to try and get the beta out by the end of this week. I've said that a few times. Our goal was to have the beta done by the end of January, but these things, at some point they just take the time they take. But what's the plan for tonight? So tonight, I'm probably the main functional piece that we want to get into 1.3 is support for MQTTv5. So v5 is the very latest version of the spec. It's been out a couple of years now. When did we get that published? v5, 7th of March 2019. So 1.3 hopefully will ship in time for its 2-year anniversary. We want to get MQTTv5 support into Node-RED. The underlying MQTT library already supports it and has done for a while. The work is really needed to be working out how to expose the v5 features in the Node-RED nodes and work out how best to make sense of how we do that. Now, there's been a pull request around for a couple months now from Steve in the community, who's done a lot of superb work. He's done a lot of the legwork really to get v5, to get a lot of the updates in. And I'm now in the process of reviewing that pull request, and I've kind of, having gone back and forth a bit with Steve, and he's made some great updates. It's kind of at that point now, it just needs a bit of final polish and review, just to make sure we're exposing the right options. Although I think we're pretty much there now for the core nodes, for the publish and subscribe nodes. But there's a little bit of work still to do around the broker node. So tonight's going to be a bit of a dive into MQTT, which for those who don't know, let's pull it up. So MQTTv3 is kind of the original public version of the public standardized version of MQTT, which we got published back in 2014. Oh, is it really that long ago? So this MQTT version 3.1.1, this was kind of the standardization of what MQTT had been for a long time when we had it just inside IBM, and when it would sort of officially made it open, but not as an open standard. We did the version 3.1.1 version of MQTT, which kind of just codified what already existed, what people had already implemented based on what specs already existed. We then turned our attention to, having codified what already exists, how can we improve things? Along came MQTTv5. So this was our opportunity to basically, in some ways, fix some of the deficiencies of 3.1.1. 3.1's great. It's great for what it does. But it also kind of had its limitations. It had its areas where it was less capable than some wanted it to be. It was perfectly capable in what it was designed to do, but it was felt, with some smallish additions, we could make it much more powerful, make it more interoperable with other messaging systems out there, which is always good. And so v5 came into existence. Now, the funny thing is, I know MQTT version 3.1 back to front. I've spent years working with it. I've implemented it a number of times, and that's good. v5, because it's all new stuff, I was part of the standards committee, and it was part of 18 months, 2 years of technical discussions over what features should be in and should be out. And then after it got published, I haven't really touched it because I hadn't, I was focused on Node-RED. I was doing much less day-to-day stuff with MQTT. I wasn't, in a previous role, I was the lead developer on an MQTT broker inside IBM. That wasn't the case after v5 being published. So I've sort of grown a bit rusty in terms of what's new in v5, partly clouded because I can remember a lot of the technical discussions we have. I can't always remember what conclusion they got to, and what's the actual end result that ended up in the spec. And there've been a few times I've gone to remind myself what went in, or look up a feature and how did we do that, only to then remind myself, oh no, we chose not to put that in the end. So yeah, I've had a fun day today actually of just reminding myself of some of the finer detail of the protocol and thinking about what that means for MQTT, for Node-RED and the MQTT nodes. So I've got, so there is a pull request. You know what pull requests look like. There is a pull request from Steve, which represents basically the starting point for everything I'm looking at tonight. And Steve's done a great job of going through, pulling out lots of features from the spec, building in the UI elements for it and the runtime side of it. And we've been having a bit of back and forth about fine-tuning some of that. And it's kind of got to the point now where, as this is the last major thing for 1.3, I'm happy to sort of take it on and do some of this final polish. So what does it look like? Well, if you come into the MQTT broker node, and so this is the UI that I'm going to spend a bit of time fine-tuning tonight. But as it stands, the protocol version, before you could have a choice between 3.1 and 3.11, and frankly, 3.1 legacy version is I'd be highly surprised if anyone actually needs to use that version these days. But now you can select v5 in that choice, and if you select v5, you get some new options so here we're in the out node, the publish node. So this is where we've got to with the UI, these new options. You've got user properties. So in just the same way that when you publish a message with the MQTT out node, you can set message.topic, or you can provide a hard-coded topic, likewise quas and retain. It's going to follow exactly the same pattern. By default, none of these properties are set, but you can set them via a message property, or you can come in here and set a hard-coded value within the node. Content type, nice example of Steve had done a great job, and he'd actually listed out about 20 odd default content types, but I've paired it right back to what I think are probably going to be the most likely built-in ones. Steve had a few image types, movie types, and it kind of felt it ended up being a very long list to trawl through. And I think on balance, having a shorter list where you can select other and then type in application JSON's a bad example, whatever it is, image, GIF, or whatever the MIME types are. So that works. Yeah, anyway, so that's for the out node. For the subscriber, we've got some new options down here. You've got, and this is part of the interesting thing, there's what the protocol calls it, and then it's how do you present that in the UI that will make sense to users. So there's an option called no local, which if you know the protocol, you know what that means, but it translates round to if you subscribe to a topic by setting the no local flag, then if the same client also publishes to that topic, it won't receive that publish. So it's a nice way to prevent loops if you're trying to bridge between different Node-RED instances. So if you've got two Node-RED instances and you want to kind of mirror all of the messages, two brokers running on two different systems, and you want to mirror the messages going between them, you can use the no local flag to have one thing, but one subscribe to hash everything on the other broker, but then set the no local flag so it's subscribed to everything, but anything that it publishes to that broker won't get sent back because you risk getting stuck in infinite loops then. An option around retain flag, and also this option about retained messages. And so when you subscribe to a topic, you will get all the retained messages, or you will get the retained message on that topic if one exists. V5 lets you customize that behavior. So from a UI standpoint, I think we're largely done on these. There's one feature that may get back in. What I want to do tonight is just a bit of UI work. So it's going to be a bit of pixel pushing. And it's around this session option. So if I select 311, well, I mean, for a start, you can see the layout's just not quite working. Things aren't quite aligned. So we want to tidy this up. But in 311, there's this concept of clean session, which you can toggle on and off. And what clean session says is, so if you use a clean session, then the broker won't remember anything about you after you disconnect. So that it will discard all your subscriptions, any in-flight messages will get discarded. It just cleans everything out, which is great. If you don't, if you aren't doing persistent messaging, if you want to have a clean slate, then clean session is ideal for that. When you go to V5, there's this, well, in the UI, there's a new option. If you don't use clean session, there's this new expiry option. However, and I spotted this a bit later in the day today, V5 doesn't have quite the same idea of clean session as V3 does. So V5, I've spent so much time in this protocol doc, although not so much recently. Here it is. So yeah, let's pull up 311. Let's pull up the equivalent sections of the protocol. So here we are on 311. Should I make this bigger? Oh, probably too big. Okay, now I've lost where I was. Connect flags. So in 311, clean session. And it's all about the client server cleaning up session state when a connection closes. In V5, I've lost this flag. Let's find it. Connect flags. It's no longer called clean session. It's called clean start. And that's quite an important semantic difference. So in V3, if you set clean session to true, that means when you connect, the broker is required to create a new session for you. So discard anything it had. And when you disconnect, it's required to throw away anything it had. So it determines like both the beginning and the end bounds to your session. But it does mean a client can't change its mind about the state of its session. It either has to connect clean, in which case nothing will get remembered. Everything will get thrown away at the start and at the end. Or it connects with clean session set to false, in which case it'll resume any session state, and session state will get kept after the client disconnects. V5 separates out those two ideas. So when you connect, you can set a clean start flag. So that's just saying, what should the broker do with any existing state at the point that the client connects? It doesn't say anything about what the client should do or what the broker should do when the client disconnects. Because the other new thing that's been... I've got to zoom out, I can't. Sorry, it's too much to scroll through to be that close in, and it's a huge document. If we go look at the disconnect, then sorry, I get ahead of myself. So on the connect, here we go. We have the clean start flag. So what should it do? And then as a separate property as part of the connect, there is the session expiry interval. So that tells clean start. Oh, I've scrolled off again. Where is it? Max packet size, top alias. I've gone too far. Session expiry. So so this is how you then determine what happens when the client disconnects. It's well, you don't need to worry how it's encoded, but it's a 4-byte integer. If the value is set to 0 or it is not specified, then the session ends when the network connection is closed. So to get equivalent behavior to v3's clean session, you would set clean start to true, and you would set the session expiry interval to 0, or leave it as its default. If it's absent, it's 0. So that will mean clean when you connect and end the session, clean the session when the network connection is closed. But the client can set an expiry value, which is a unit of time in seconds for how long should that session stick around for, including never if you set it to FFFFFFF, which is whatever the big number that is. How long should the broker hold on to that session, because you might reconnect and want to resume that session and resume any in-flight messages. So it just gives you more choice what to do with that session state. You might know that you're going to go offline for 10 minutes, in which case keep the session around for... But yeah, I'm going to go away for no more than 10 minutes. If I'm gone for longer than 10 minutes, then when I reconnect, give me a clean slate and we'll start again. In fact, the spec does talk around the equivalence between clean start and session expiry and the clean session flag of v3. Anyway, all of that is a very long-winded way of saying we do need some way in the UI. We need to just slightly improve, I think, the layout of this UI is the honest answer. It's all got a little cluttered in here, and to be fair, it was cluttered before Steve touched it. But yeah, we need to have a little think about what we can do. So how are we going to do this? Well, we want to make sure, we want to keep this what do we want? We need to fix, first of all, this label, that it's wrapping unexpectedly. And it's wrapping because it's been set to 2 columns, because this expiry field appears if it needs to be there. There's also, I want to get rid of this S in brackets, because I know it's there to imply seconds, but I keep looking at it and thinking, like, keep alive times. Is that plural? Sometimes it's one singular, sometimes it's plural. Why is it in a bracket? So yeah, I'm not sure how obvious that is. But yeah, we need to tidy this up. So yeah, tonight's going to be just a bit of pixel pushing. I'm not going to spend too much long on it. This is kind of just the grunt work I'm doing to get 1.3 close to being able to do the beta later this week. I did a bit more work on plugins this week end of last week around settings and how plugins can expose settings to the editor, and that looks good. Merged a few pull requests and a few fixes coming from various bits of the community, which is always welcome. Right, I just need to be quiet for a moment whilst I just think, where am I even looking? So I'm in mqtt.html. I need to find the broker template. So Mqtt broker. This is the template HTML. There's session expiry interval. Right, so here's the class that Steve had added. Maybe Steve, maybe it was already there. I can't remember, to be honest with you. Which is there to try and create those 2 columns. What do we want this to look like? We kind of want it to yeah. Right, how can we just improve the general appearance of this form? We can. This part of me wonders, should protocol be buried all the way down the bottom? Kind of, maybe that's okay. So we have the first row, which is the hostname and the port. Then this next row, which to enable TLS. And when you select it, it shows this other row, and just nothing's lining up. Nothing is lining up whatsoever. So sometimes, rather than dive down into a fine detail, I do play around to say, well, what if? How can we improve this generally for the better? So what I'm going to do is, let's move this checkbox over, and we're going to do that by setting a margin left of 100. I have to admit, there is an aspect of our edit dialogues that I would like to, maybe this is a Node-RED 2.0 thing, but I want to improve the tooling we provide for creating edit dialogues. I think we spend far too much time pushing pixels around when these things should be easier to generate. Right, so if I do, so the other thing, I don't like when options appear and disappear. It just makes everything jump around. There's always a balance between hiding options the user doesn't need to worry about. So sometimes it's okay. I guess this isn't one that they spend lots of time toggling on and off, but it does feel like it'd be nice to have a, what am I even saying? I don't know. Just sort of muttering. And this is what I do when I talk aloud, and I'm just trying to pad a bit of time as I'm figuring this stuff out. So they have, where are we? So just gonna pixel push that. Yeah, of course it's 4 pixels further over than that. And yeah, it's not good doing pixel perfect. Oh, I shouldn't have reloaded, sorry. All this sort of pixel perfect UI layout is just not, doesn't afford itself to skinning and retheming, and if someone wants to create a Node-RED theme with modifying sizes of stuff, there's just way too much stuff hard coded in. But what I'm going to try here is, rather than have that long use, I'm just going to sorry, people on Slack are telling me about the let me just tell them I know. So right, let's sort out this UI. Yeah, if anyone's got any questions, do ask away. I think I'm going to be a little bit just muttering to myself as I try and figure out the best way to present this UI. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions about any Node-RED type stuff they want to ask, and see if you can distract me suitably whilst I figure this out. If we do that, we get rid of this whole thing. Yeah. And when we talk about Node-RED 2.0, it's always interesting to think about, what are there any big ideas we ought to consider for 2.0? Okay, so it's looking better in that, okay, it still pixel jumps a bit, and we can tidy that up, but it kind of feels like it's a bit more, this is to do with the server config. Maybe you should just say use TLS instead. What I'm going to do is 34. We are going to set so use TLS. Oh, it's still jumping around a bit. People asking on Slack where the Twitch stream is. Well, they may join us in a moment, I guess. So that's looking better, but it's still jumping around a bit. I'm not liking this jumping around. Apparently I'm quick with the keyboard because I managed to answer. But I typed quickly because I'm talking to you guys as well. vertical align top. If that's not vertical align top, does that still jump around? Yes, that still jumps around. Oh, I hate this stuff. Why is it not simpler? Okay. We are going to set that. If I set that to 34, is that still going to vex me? No, that works. Okay. So, and this is what I find myself spending a lot of time doing is, I spend time in Chrome tools, fiddling with the UI, try and find what works. Now, use TLS, that could be better aligned, couldn't it? That could be vertical align top, no, middle. Okay, well that looks crappy. Ah, right, yeah, right. So this has got some padding at the top for some reason. Nope, not padding top, maybe margin top. Yeah, it's better. Okay, so I'm going to say I'm not going to get this pixel perfect in front of you guys, but the principle's there. Client ID, so keep alive time. Now, well, that's interesting. What do we call keep alive? Is it still called keep alive? I think it is, Yeah, keep alive. But it's not the session keep alive. It's or maybe no, session keep alive would be confusing to call it that, because that's not. And this is one of the things, just trying to keep it true to the protocol. We want to make sure that people who are familiar with Node-RED they're able to find the configuration options that they know. Hi in the chat. So recap what we're doing. So I am just fiddling around with the MQTT nodes in Node-RED. The last outstanding item really for the 1.3 release, major item, is getting the MQTTv5 support in. So there's just some UI work needed just to integrate some of those features and to tidy up based on the pull request we've already got on the list on GitHub. So in particular, it's the connection settings. So these are the core Node-RED MQTT nodes. So all of this will be in in Node-RED 1.3 when that arrives. Hopefully the beta later this week is the goal, is what I've challenged myself to deliver. But it depends. As I've now got to go fix the flow library after this session, we'll see what time I have left. Hopefully that should be some DNS. So what improvements has V5 got? V5's got a whole host of cool stuff. In fact, it's a good question. If you are interested, HiveMQ have got a great series of blog posts, MQTT5 Essentials, that go into a lot of detail about all the new stuff in V5. So that's drop it in the chat there. So tons of stuff. I mean, far more that I can sort of talk to whilst trying to fix what I'm fixing, but things like publishers can now have additional user-defined properties, key value pairs on the publishers. You can do request response messaging You can more options around session expiry and message. You can have message expiry. That's a new one actually. How long should a message exist for on the broker before the broker expires it? Response topics, shared subscriptions. Shared subscriptions. I know a number of brokers, V3 brokers, informally supported shared subscriptions, but V5 sort of codifies it, and so that's where you can have two clients subscribe to the same topic using a shared subscription, and the broker will round robin the messages between those clients. So it's great. It's what you need if you want to do proper load balancing of MQTT workloads across multiple clients. Very useful if you want to scale Node-RED, for instance, with MQTT-driven workloads. So, okay, Noxie's taking me off my word and he's asking difficult questions about other topics. Let me just quick read. Looking to create a set of subflows for projects which I do on a local environment. I will then want to share, deploy the subflows to multiple instances in different locations for different projects. I want to ensure as I enhance and develop upon those flows, that updates can be pushed to the other instances or updates shared without having to log onto each Node-RED instance. I believe that's in the beta feature, however, I'm trying to put something together using admin API. However, the endpoints are somewhat lacking. Right, so yes, you can update subflows via the admin API, but it's not a pleasant experience. There is an implicit flow called the global flow, and that's what holds all of the subflows. So if you want to update a subflow definition, you basically have to get the global flow, update just the one subflow in it, and if you've got hundreds of subflows, they're all in there. You update the one and then push that back, put that back, and that will update the subflow definition. But it's not a pleasant experience. So yes, we have got an item on the backlog to provide a subflow API, but that's all we have at the moment is an item on the backlog. I'm well aware it's an issue, but certainly as we look at improving the workflow, a lot of the workflows around subflows, making it easier to manage them is part of that. So and in fact, good point, Nat, subflow publishing on NPM. So that's one of the things in 1.3 is I'm going to call it experimental support. It's not something I think we're going to tell everyone just to start using. Don't charge at. I think it needs a bit more settling in, but there will be basic support for publishing a subflow as an NPM package that gets installed just like any other node. So then you can manage updates like you would custom nodes. But another great question from Risha. I'm building a contrib node. Is it okay to use ES6 or should I follow the guidelines that support also legacy code like done? And if I need to check those, it means that, for example, arrow functions won't work in all node versions, right? You do have to be careful about using arrow functions. As I say, arrow functions serve a specific purpose. They aren't just a global replacement for normal functions. There are times when you do not use arrow functions, simply put, and you because you don't get the this object which you need. There are places where you just, and this is true with ES6, just because you can do an arrow function doesn't mean you should. You constant let, that's absolutely fine. There's no issues with any of that. It's going to depend what version of Node.js you're targeting for your node. But all of the versions of Node.js that Node-RED supports support ES6 syntax, so that's no issue. It's just when you're creating the node definition, you just need to have a little care. But destructing. I can't say. Destructuring. That's in. I mean, again, just check what versions of Node.js. These aren't. It's not Node-RED restricting that. It's the version of Node.js that, and yeah, we do that sort of destructuring when we do requiring. So in the core, you obviously need to be aware in the on the editor side what browser support you want. We know there are people who still ask for IE 11, so we do try and keep the core editor and core nodes IE 11 happy to a degree. So yeah, we don't use const and let and all that sort of stuff in, although you can actually. IE does have some support for it. But you know, in many ways it keeps you honest. That said, I suspect we will say enough is enough with IE 11 this year. I mean, I'm inclined to say version 2.0 we will say goodbye to IE 11, but okay, it depends. There, as I say, there are corporate users of Node-RED who are well aware of the problems that IE have, but equally they are stuck. So anyway, I'm sorry, I'm all a bit all over the place. What am I trying to do? I want to tidy up this row, this session row now, which was protocol version session here. So how are we going to do this? We don't want clean session looking like that to begin with. What have we got here? We've got the row with an initial label, a div for that, then that label, and then that input. Yeah, we don't want to do it like that, I don't think. What we're going to do is, right, let's just get this back down to being one row, because yeah, get rid of that, get rid of that. We want to have a checkbox like we just sorted out for the use TLS, which was up here. I'm just going to crib that for the moment. Checkbox, input clean session. Input clean session. Oh, right, okay. Will v3 have a node? Yeah, I see node.debug in the function node. That sort of comes around, and I'm not entirely sure why we've not. I can't immediately remember where we end up on that every time it gets discussed. So part of the problem is sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once. It's not going to work because it's HTML. I have no idea if I've done anything right there. So conceptually, the way it works is the debug sidebar is subscribed to it's listening for warning messages or higher. Because if it listened to debug messages, then it would get the whole Node-RED log, because the debug sidebar is subscribed to the log events. So there is already node.debug when you're writing a custom node, the debug event will log something at debug level, and it will appear in the it will write something to the Node-RED runtime log at the debug level. That is different to getting something to appear in the debug sidebar provided by the debug nodes, because the debug nodes use their own channel above the log subscription. So there is a case to be made for why has this all gone screwy? I think it's going to prove I can't do two things at once. So yeah, use Flex. A lot of this code is like 8 years old that you're looking at here. The MQTT nodes date back to the very early days of Node-RED, so they haven't evolved over time. A lot of the core now does use Flex. You know what? It's this sort of stupid pixel pushing that I just don't enjoy doing. Whilst I'm trying to narrate it, that's the really hard bit. No, Tailwind is good, and like I don't know if you'd already joined, but certainly one of the things I want to look at in the future is providing a neater toolkit for doing the node edit dialogues. The key thing is making sure we've got a default set that just work, because this is a mess. A default set of styles that kind of just work, and provide all the sort of the common layouts that you might want, whilst making it possible to customize and so on and so forth. So I think something, again, for the 2.0 time frame is we will come up with a nicer set of styles, and then nodes will then be able to opt into that nicer set of styles, because we might say it might lead to a different semantic layout of your markup, but form row 2 or something. It won't be that, but just have a new CSS class that the other thing for a lot of nodes, which are just key value pairs, I'm not going to keep trying to fix this UI, because it needs more concentration than I can give it, and I've just got the fact the flow library is broken nagging in my head that I want to get on and investigate that in a minute. So one of the things, this tab's a good example of, it's just a very simple form of label, input, and an optional icon. So you could well imagine a node it just has to declare sort of more declaratively that these are the fields and these are the types of inputs, much like we do for subflows. The fact that in a subflow you can define properties and then define what UI should Node-RED display to edit that property. There was absolutely the concept that the data format we use for subflows, well, what if NPM nodes, as part of their definition, just provided that same definition, and we generate the UI. I think there's a lot to be said for us doing that. It would give us the flexibility to change how they get laid out, as long as it's still conceptually a label and an input, but be much more constrained. And that's fine until you want to get into more interesting things and more sort of dynamic UIs that change what's being displayed, and that type of stuff. But so I don't know. You know what? I'm not getting any headway on this MQTT stuff, purely because I'm trying to narrate as I go, and I think my head is just not in the right space to try and sort out the layout, but whilst I talk to you, and do it sensibly, as my stuttering probably demonstrates. So yeah, I'm pretty happy now with the publish node, as I said. Yeah, there is dark mode. It's not built in, but you can install extra themes, and that's something we've made easier in 1.3. So there is a dark mode, in fact. Oh, I need dark mode in my IDE, right? Yeah. No, I've never been one to be that interested in dark modes. I don't know. But yeah, if I just comment that in, trigger restart. Ooh, don't do that. Pressing the wrong keys now. Can user prompts be overrun by message? They will be able to. Yeah. Most of my time I've spent today. Look, Node-RED dark mode. Although I haven't got the scroll bar fix on this one. Yeah, most of my focus today now has been just sorting out the UI and simplifying some of the options that Steve had provided. All of these options, if you select none, just the same as with Quaz, Retain and Topic, all of these properties will be settable by a well-defined message property. And I've chosen, so Steve had in these typed inputs, let you specify message, flow, global, but I've taken all of those out because we in general we don't let the user customize the message properties to that extent all over the shop. So they will be well-defined properties, and yeah, and that's the other big part, is the help hasn't been updated. So I need to go through and update all the help to describe all these new properties if you're using v5, which is going to be interesting. Yeah. The other, so that there's Nathaniel, from the issue, some of the comments back and forth is topic aliasing. I'm all for us making use of topic aliasing in an aim to simplify the UI. It is a question of whether the topic aliasing is exposed for the end user to set, or is it a message property, or is it something that the client does entirely under the covers? I think given the default Mosquito lets you have 10 topic aliases, then I dare say for a lot of cases we could automatically alias all of the nodes that the user have set a topic on. There is that question though, are they dynamically setting the topic so we don't know the topics ahead of time, and can we do a good job of allocating the right one? If they have a topic they're publishing to every 5 seconds versus one they publish every hour, we obviously want to alias the one every 5 seconds because that's going to save a lot more bandwidth. So I should explain. Topic aliasing is, if you've got your topic, room, kitchen, temperature, whatever, you can set an alias which will be an integer, like it's a 1 byte, 2 byte integer. Let's have a look. Topic alias. Topic alias. So it's a single. Oh, it's a 2 byte. So it's 2 byte integer. So potentially plenty of them. But that means when you first publish, the first time you publish that topic, you can set an alias. So the client will say, right, I'm publishing to room, kitchen, temperature, call that alias 1. And then from then on, whenever this client publishes to topic alias 1, the broker will know we mean room kitchen temperature. So it's just a way for to save bandwidth. If you're publishing to the same topic a lot, you can save, I mean, this is a bit contrived, it's a short sample. If you're publishing to the IBM Watson IoT platform, your topic could easily be 200 characters long. And if you're sending sensor data up, then that's potentially saving a lot of bandwidth. And because MQTT is all about efficiency on the wire, that does make sense. So there is a question. So the hard part is you've got to manage the aliases properly, because if you get them wrong, the broker will kick you off. You can't reuse them. The broker will set a limit on how many aliases you're allowed active at one time. It's one of those features that we could manage internally by being selective over which ones we set aliases for. If we let the user do it, it just opens up a lot of ways the user could muck it up, frankly. And I don't know yet. So it's one of those maybe not rush into doing, but if we don't get there on this initial release of V5, it's far easier to add it in later. So yeah. Okay. So it's basically bandwidth saving. But the question is really, is it a feature we can manage entirely internally in the Node-RED node, or do we need to expose it to the user? And if we expose it to the user, could it just be via message property, so it's not in the UI? Whereas actually having it in the UI might be useful to help the user manage them, because they're not allowed to reuse the same number. If you import someone's flow and you already have nodes set up, you might end up, it's just somewhere else where you could get collisions. You end up with two nodes trying to use the same alias on different topics. Anyway. Yeah. How long does it take a contrib node to be approved? There's no approval needed. As long as it's been published to NPM and it meets the criteria that are set out in the documentation for it's got a README, it's got the right keywords, and it's package.json, then that's all great. And then you go to the flow library, if the flow library was working, which it isn't right now, and you would just add it. And if there are any problems, it would tell you. Anyway, there we go. So this is me. I'm just not a fan of dark modes. Let's get back to daylight so we can see what's going on. So this is going to be me for the next couple of days, is just tuning the UI and try and improve matters. Because so this is the other one which I thought I might get to tonight, but clearly I've made zero progress. With a publish, you can now set user properties, which are arbitrary key value pairs that will get published alongside the payload, and that's great, and response topic and content, all those properties. Well, just today someone on Slack was asking about whether we supported V5, because they want to, on the last will message, they want to be able to set user properties and response topic and. So, in our broker config, we have this UI that lets you set these messages. And we're going to have to add the UI to add all those other options to them if it's a V5 broker, which again is just going to be a lot of cookie cutter UI to copy and paste of all these new elements. It's just going to make it excessive. And also that shouldn't, when I scroll, it shouldn't scroll the tabs. It should just, anyway, I'm getting distracted now. Right, guys, I'm going to wind things up here because I need to go fix the flow library. I see people are now raising issues on the website, which is entirely the wrong place, but I guess they do what they can. Right. So keep an eye out for 1.3. If you do want to have more of a chat with me, remember I do offer weekly office hours on Node-RED. Just ask on Slack. If you can't remember to go to calendar.com/Nollery. Yeah. If you want to have a chat with me on Fridays for half an hour on anything to do with Node-RED, do book in the slot. I've got plenty of time open now this week. So, yeah, I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm going to go and figure out what the flow library bug is. Because look at that. That does not look pleasant. Can I send the Calendly link? Of course I can. So there's the Calendly link. Yeah. CNAME cross-user banned. That does not sound friendly. That does not sound like a minor misconfiguration, but it's also intriguing that that should have just suddenly happened out of the blue. So let's go see what someone has mucked up. I don't think it was me, but who knows. Right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening. Have a good rest of your week, and speak again next time. Chisel. Bye.